and welcome to Fade In. I'm your host, Carrie Collins. Today we're devoting our show to the feature film, The Unsung, and I'm joined here in the studio by two of its stars, Jared Bajoras and Kendall Yeaman. Thanks for joining me, guys. And joining us via Skype from Los Angeles is director Damiano Fusca. Damiano, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about The Unsung.
It's a feature film that I've been developing with my partner Jared Bajoras for the last 6 or 7 years. After completing our first feature film in 2008, which we released in 2012, we wanted to work on this more rugged, dark, gritty story of a homeless man with a parallel story of a detective following a murder case. And we wanted these two stories to clash, kind of showing two different sides of these two men following the same murder case. One being a professional detective law enforcer, and one being a homeless guy with no resources or anything.
I am very excited to start off with a trailer of the film so everyone can see what it's about, and we can talk about it after that. So here is the trailer for the feature film, The Unsung.
It's the bad memories that keep you strong. You have to decide you've carried the pain long enough. Put your life back together again.
What is this place?
This is not a place at all. This is where the old and forgotten come to rest for warmth. Where broken families come to survive.
Roger, frequency 5, clear on 3401 to number 3.
Multiple impalements to the torso by blade. Susan Green, 44 years old, lived at her aunt's house. All the symbols are from the Renaissance period. Is there anything you can tell me about Susan that'll help me find the person who wanted to hurt her?
I tried to help her.
I'm talking to you. Open your ears. Hell, open your eyes. A woman by the name of Susan Green was killed last night. Well, Vinny the Voice is on the case. This town could use a guy like me, someone who fights back.
Why do you watch over all these people?
They have all lost their way, becoming shadows of what they once were.
Maybe that's what I've become. A shadow.
Then that is what you were meant to be.
What do you dream about?
This is a place he could do the most good.
You speak of him as if he was a hero.
All heroes aren't necessarily good people, detective. I would expect a man like you to understand that.
The suspect has left evidence related to the Renaissance period. Officials also report that a male civilian dressed in all black briefly disrupted the investigation. He was not taken into custody.
There will be a new beginning. I have come to lead us into the light. This will be a renaissance.
Ooh, The Unsung, that looks really good. Jared, you co-wrote this, is that right?
Yeah, along with Damiano. We wrote our first film together in 2008, Deference, and this is the second feature film that we wrote together.
And that was through, is it your production company?
Yeah, our production company, Churchill Pictures, and our partner production company out of Beachview, Cut and Run Studios.
Okay. And Damiano, you're a producer as well with Churchill Studios, and you directed this and co-wrote it, correct?
Correct.
Tell me, either of you, well, Damiano, let me start with you. Tell me where the idea for this film came. It's got a very sort of dark look to it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the original concept came up in a conversation while we were shooting our first feature 10 years ago. And then I think we both decided, well, let's just finish this first one and see what happens. And then we didn't talk about it for maybe 2 years. And then we really started to get into it, writing, Jared wrote a treatment that was constantly rewritten. We rewrote that script maybe 5-6 times before we decided on a story that we wanted to film.
Wow. And can you give us a sort of a summary of the story, Jared? Tell us really what's happening.
Sure. The Unsung follows a kind of nomadic character. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the main character. We don't really divulge to the audience, especially right away early on in the story, exactly his background and things like that. But you get the idea that he's kind of a nomad, just wandering around He ends up saving a young girl who leads him to a homeless society that's called the Row. And he decides to stay there and actually befriends a lot of people. It's like the first social interaction that he's had for numerous years. And he ends up befriending a bunch of the people in the Row and ultimately kind of getting a light of fire from these people. And with his love of comic books, he develops like an alter ego and gets involved in a local crime. There's a serial killer going around, so it's a bunch of different storylines that ultimately divulge in the climax at the end. But the main theme is, there's themes of mental illness, of homelessness, and as the title goes, a lot of unsung heroes.
Yeah. Yeah, Damiano, was it hard to sort of weave those different storylines together, both as a writer and a director on this?
It was at first. Originally, we had all pretty much the same characters, but they were they had separate lives. And it was a writing consultant of ours, Mike Smith, who's done a few short films in Pittsburgh, who pointed me in the right direction to put all these main characters at this Row, this homeless society, so that they could all kind of inhabit the same area, and they kind of have the same characteristics to where they all are these unsung heroes. They all have skills that could be used in the outside world, but they all kind of choose to live in this homeless society away from society.
And Kendall, that's where we meet your character, right? Her name's Samara?
Yes.
Yeah, and tell us about her. How did she get with this group of people?
So she comes from a broken family, and so she kind of like leaves that family and she finds the Row, and she kind of depends on a bunch of people in there, and she meets Eric, his character, and leads him there.
Leads him to the Row.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was in a little bit of trouble when she first meets Eric, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but can you tell us what was happening without divulging anything to? No spoiler alerts?
Well, she's kind of in some trouble with her brother.
Okay.
So she's just trying to get away from that and figure out how to make her life better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel like she does make her life better when she gets into this community?
I do feel she makes her life better, and I feel like she also helps other people.
Okay, yeah. So Damiano said they all have sort of their own heroic characteristics. What would you say hers is?
I would say helping Eric find like his place in the world, and yeah.
Yeah. So she leads him to this group of folks, and then help me to figure out how he then starts to. Does he investigate these murders, or?
Yeah. So basically, it kind of catches his eye, and he gets interested in it, and he develops this sense of wanting to be the Rose protector. So that's kind of where his motivation comes from. Okay. And then, again, going with the mental illness thing, he's not exactly all there, and there's like mystery surrounding exactly what's going on with him. But his love of comics was always his solace as a kid, and we show that in flashbacks. There's flashbacks of Eric's broken childhood throughout, and he would always run to the comic books to make himself feel better. So as an adult and wanting to become their protector, that kind of combination is what sets him to create this alter ego and start investigating these crimes to figure out what's going on and to protect the Row.
Okay.
There's a parallel story of a Detective Jones following a series of murders, and slowly but surely the clues leading up to these murders lead back to this homeless society, and that's where these two parallel stories kind of clash. And you have on one side you have the detective following the murder case, which he's in charge of, and then you have this homeless, hero in his own mind who catches wind of these series of murders through newspapers and news stories on the television.
And then does he work with a detective? Am I asking too many spoiler alert questions here? I don't know.
No, I don't think so, because like I said, I think we did pretty good with keeping it mysterious, and even kind of talking about it like this, you're still not going to know.
Okay, that's good. All right.
The main plot points and things like that.
So they do work together?
Well, that you'll see. Eventually, again, towards the climax, their paths converge. So that's kind of a spoiler as far as if they do. No, it's no big deal. Like if they do work together or not is kind of one of the big plot points. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in the comic book. So is that a personal experience for you, or Damiano, for you? How did that come into the script?
I was always an artist, sketch artist growing up, and I always had a love for comic books, just kind of the mainstream ones, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, and I wanted to incorporate that I thought it would fit well into this character, seeing how he sees himself as a real life kind of superhero, and it would make sense that he gets these ideas from a lifelong love of reading comics, you know, as I did, and I'm sure Jared did as a kid as well. So it was just a way of making it fit in the psyche of this character. You know, we know he had to have a hard past, and we know we had to show that. We had to show how a capable man ended up on the street. And I think we did that well with peeling the onion slowly with his backstory throughout the film. And the comic books were just the one thing that made him want to become this character, that gave him that alter ego in his mind and made him kind of believe that he could help, but only through this character that he developed, because he didn't have too much confidence in himself as a person. So he needed this alter ego. He needed the mask, so to speak, to go out and be heroic.
And Damiano, you said you're an artist. You started out in graphic design. Did you draw the comic books?
I did. I illustrated all the comics. I wrote all the little stories that we showed on film. Created this warrior character that he could relate to. Kind of looks like our main character Eric as well. So it was important for him to connect with that character, and it was important for the storyline in the comics to coincide with the story in the movie a little bit, for Eric to relate and for the audience to be interested. And I think we did that well without overdoing it or underdoing it. And most of the drawings in the comics are actually modeled after illustrations in Batman comics and Superman comics. So I kind of copied some poses just for, you know, comic book nerds like me to recognize. You know, I doubt the normal viewer will recognize that, but even the comics are modeled after real comics.
A homage.
Yeah, and are there any comics of you? Did he draw you at all? No. No. I thought that'd be a nice kind of, I don't know, set souvenir to have. A hand-drawn comic of your character.
Well, when I came in for like the first time to meet everyone, they actually had a drawing of like what my character would be wearing, so it was cool to see that.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, that was a really cool aspect. Damiano did that as well. He put sketches together of the wardrobe. And at the end, you'll see at the end credits, we have a bunch of pictures and different things, and we incorporated that. But to see the sketch of Damien and I's vision of these characters compared to what we came up with, they're pretty identical. It's pretty cool to see.
That must be fun to see that evolve. Yeah. So you two really have been involved in this from the inception. It was really your baby, your story. And how long, what's the process been like? When did you start this, really?
Like Damiano said, during our first feature film, we got together. Both of us, Damien was actually in the industry. He works as a grip and is in the union out in Hollywood. So he's worked on huge films, small films, TV shows, and has that experience completely hands-on. I personally, I've done performing arts since I was a kid. And I made my first student film. I attended Penn State University for college. I did my first student film there. It was a documentary on our backyard professional wrestling.
Oh, that's great.
And Damien was a big part of that because we grew up together. So that actually took place in Churchill too, at Bullocks Park.
That's great.
But the long and the short of it is, we call it the famous phone call. He watched the documentary and really enjoyed it, and he gave me a call when I was living in a strip district, and he asked me one simple question: Jared, do you want to make a movie? And I had one simple answer: yes. And so we made our first feature film from scratch using all our resources, of course, a shoestring budget, and we completed that in the summer of 2008.
Okay.
And we basically released it in 2012. The biggest thing that did, it won the Silver Ace Award at the 2012 Las Vegas Film Festival.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it's available now on Vimeo, so it's streaming.
Great.
So of course we wanted to do another one, and to go back to answering your question, like Damien had previously mentioned, we kind of started throwing around the initial idea for this during the filming of the first one, and of course that had to go on the back burner to try to get distribution for the first one and do what we needed to do with that. So then we came back to it, and from that initial concept to now has been about 6 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a long time.
So
long
we're
time
stuck
to
in
hold
there.
on to a dream.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And did you fund this one yourselves also?
Yeah, it's completely self-financed. I myself financed it along with Damian's help, and you know, we have about 4 investors so far that are executive producers.
Yeah.
And at this point, the budget's been about $30,000.
Wow, that's amazing that you could produce a feature on that. So that's pretty incredible. And is it being distributed now? Is it going to be in theaters? When
Yeah,
can
so
we
right
see
now
it?
we're at the tail end of post-production and the technical aspects of the film. The final 2 biggest processes that we have to complete are sound engineering and color correction.
Yeah.
And both of those, you know, as far as a percentile goes, are probably close to being about 90% done.
Great.
So when that's completed, there's a lot of rules with film festivals. That's the first thing we're going to do is hit the festival circuit.
Great.
You can't have like an official premiere, but we are going to have a screening for the cast and crew, so that's going to be the first big thing. That's on pace to be in May in Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then I'm sure once you've made the festival circuit, then it'll be released hopefully in Pittsburgh?
Then the next step after that is distribution, but with all the streaming services right now, we do have a lot of options, which is a great thing. So of course the holy grail at this point just for eyeballs is Netflix, and then there's a lot of second-tiered streaming services that we can shoot for as well.
Yeah, a lot of options, and that's an education in of itself, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to figure out how to work with them and get your content out there.
Exactly, and that's why it's good that we learned a lot with our first film, Deference. You know, we had to learn the hard way, but nonetheless, it was a learning lesson, and now we're pretty confident on what we need to do.
Yeah, yeah. Damiano, Jared mentioned that you are in LA right now, and you're working in the industry out there. What was it like coming back and shooting your feature films here in Pittsburgh? Was that something you'd wanted to do? Did you ever think about shooting it out there?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to shoot here. I've shot little projects here before, but it's just more cost effective, and we have, you know, way more resources in the city of Pittsburgh. Plus, the city of Pittsburgh kind of has the look and characteristics of what we needed for our story. You know, it has that old industrial history, a lot of factories and industrial areas in the city that are still there.
Yeah.
That would, you know, and not that LA doesn't have that, but it's just more cost effective for us in Pittsburgh. Like you said, $30,000 is very low for a feature film, but that's because, you know, we pulled out every resource we needed to for this film, and we have, you know, we got most of our locations for free, you know, help from friends with vehicles and materials and all that. So, you know, this probably would have been, I don't know, somewhere close to $75,000 had it been had everything been paid for. But you know, like Jared and I like to use our resources, and we have a lot of amazing family and friends that help us out with all of our projects. And you know, getting free locations is a big thing in the film industry, because that can cost you $1,000 a day.
Yes.
Depending on where you're shooting. So having free locations really helped bring the budget down for this film.
Plus, the crew here in town is fantastic. I mean, a lot of really talented crew, very talented actors as well.
Thank you.
So, of course. So that, I'm sure that was helpful.
You have a wide range of actors. You have people like Kendall who are new, but still, you know, very professional and really good at their job. And you have actors like Rick Billick, who played Sam in the movie, the older gentleman, who brings that kind of veteran mentality to the set, and helps with you know, rewriting words here and there and all that. But every actor in this movie definitely took on their character with a serious approach and gave a heck of a performance.
Yeah. Well, Kendall, you are new, you are young, and up-and-coming young actors here in Pittsburgh, but you've already been in a major television show, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about Outsiders.
So Outsiders, there was just an open casting call that we found 3 years ago about, and so we just went in, and about 3 or 4 days later, they called me and said that I made the cast, so it was fun to do, and after doing that, I really noticed that I enjoyed doing that stuff, so I really wanted to do more of it.
Was that your first professional experience?
Yes, it was.
Wow, no short films, nothing before that?
Nope.
That's pretty amazing to start on a big television
show like that.
Yeah, it was
really fun
big
to
production.
see all what goes into it.
Yeah, and your character was Felia,
Felia
right?
Farrell, yes.
Yeah, and tell us about her. She had kind of a mysterious sort of...
Yeah, she was kind of mysterious. So she was kind of you didn't really know much about her, and I didn't really know much about her either. Like, we didn't know who her parents were, where she came from, and I kind of feel like she was like the helper on the mountain. Like, she just came and random like spurts in the show and just helped people out.
Huh. She there was something about a butterfly. Was there a butterfly?
Yes, there was it was a moth.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So I'm not really sure about the whole moth part. I don't really know much about it, but she did have a moth, and just
was
flew
that
around her.
a practical moth, or did they put that in later in post?
Later in post.
Darn. I was kind of hoping there was a trained moth.
Trained moth,
Yeah, trained moth. It could happen. Sure. Well, that's really fun, and what a fantastic way to start.
Yes.
But since then, you've done other projects. You and I did a project together, which I'm very proud about. Yeah.
Yes, it was fun to work on the other projects because I got to meet a lot of different people and like see how, like their experience in the industry.
Yeah.
And it was also cool to work with other like girls my age or other people my age because The Outsiders was just like more adults. There were other kids, but it was fun just to work with other kids as like.
Yeah. You're 15. Sorry,
15,
you're
yes.
15. You're 15, and in our short film, you were working with Campbell Kurlander, who is, I think, 18. She might be 19 now. Sorry, Campbell. I apologize. Yeah. So, but you two played sisters, and who was the little brother?
My actual brother.
Your actual brother. He was so great. So thank you, Ethan.
He's stick boy in our film.
He is. I love it.
And her sister Emma is also a character. She actually has a pretty big role.
Oh, that is so great. So did you hire Kendall, and then the other two came along as a package?
Yeah, they came as a package. And we actually ended up hiring her mom, Susan, as our publicist. So it's a family affair with the Yeamans.
It is a family affair. That's great. I love it. Yeah. So tell us about the casting.
If we find a job for the dad, we're going to hire him too.
That's right. He's next. They're coming for you. Tell us about the casting process. Was it long? Was it difficult?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously very important. And again, going off of our first experience, we knew we wanted to hire professional actors. And of course, being on a shoestring budget, that's where most of our budget was going to be going to. So we went on to Actors Access to find Kendall. I looked through just numerous, it was like, I think we did 13-year-old to about 18-year-old, all redheads. We needed a redhead for the plot. It's actually pretty important. So to find out that Kendall had the look and that she was local was huge.
Yeah.
But then she nailed our audition off the bat, and we just went to the races with her, and she's just immensely talented and did a great job. So I mean, it was a godsend with her.
Yeah, Kendall was kind of the missing piece to the puzzle because we had done casting 2 years in advance for this film, and most of the characters were casted about 2 years prior to shooting.
Wow.
And one of the main characters, Detective Jones, is played by a New York actor, Damiano Fusca, and he was originally supposed to play another character in the film because, you know, we had never thought that he was even ready or old enough to play the detective. But 2 years had gone by, and he had gotten a lot more experience. He was already a very well-experienced actor, but 2 more years had gone by where he, you know, where we saw him as that detective character. So that kind of came into place too. So Amadeo stepping into that detective role and Kendall coming onto the scene really helped push the movie forward and, you know, really bulked up the cast for us.
Yeah, that's great. And when you have that anchor of the cast that you're happy with, that really helps to propel things.
Yeah, because this is a full SAG film, which was important to us too, just for the credibility of that. So we had a total of 5 SAG actors involved.
Wow.
And with a shoestring budget and a pretty small cast, that was a good portion of the cast.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of put it over the edge as a very professional film and end product.
Absolutely.
And one thing is, I will say, like, I believe there's a character for every kind of audience member too. We have older women, older men, younger men, kids. It's a versatile cast. So I believe there's an actor for everyone in this movie. From
the clip that we saw, the trailer that we saw earlier, it looks like a huge cast. A lot of extras, a lot of background in this as well.
Yeah, especially the scenes, as we kind of briefly discussed, the homeless society.
Yeah.
Those were the biggest days and the biggest shoots and the toughest shoots.
Yeah.
We actually had ourselves to build that, break it down in one day, and then we had a second day of shooting days later.
Wow.
So those were, I think the shortest one, the first day was a 15-hour day, and the second shoot was almost a 20-hour shoot.
That's
so,
a long day,
yeah.
and outside as well.
Yeah.
6 a.m. to 11 p.m. each night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are some long days. That's why it's also great to have the dedicated Pittsburgh cast and crew, I think.
Yeah.
I think the mentality here is that people really want to bring all of their talents to help you realize your dreams, and people are so professional.
In a movie about unsung heroes, it sure had its share of unsung heroes on the production side. You know, people bringing trucks at 6 a.m. and helping us load and unload and helping us build sets and doing all this in their own time. I think we had a production assistant who showed up at 6 a.m. before work to help out, went to work for like 10 hours, and then came back at 11 p.m. to help us break down. So we had a lot of help and people dedicated to help make this movie look as good as it does.
Yeah, and it does. It looks beautiful, and just I'm very anxious to see it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. And so what's next for you guys? I know that you're still sort of focused on post with this, but...
Yeah, we've already shot a short film in the interim of all this.
Wow.
I was the lead actor. Damiano acted as the second director and producer, and our director of photography on this film, Justin Mackey, who is one of the main guys at Cut and Run Studios. It was his directorial debut.
Oh, great.
So that's getting shot around the festival scene, and that's available online on Vimeo. It's called Significant Other.
Okay.
But that's been getting a lot of great feedback and a lot of hits and that sort of thing.
Great.
And we already have plans this coming fall. We're hoping to shoot a bunch of short films at once, because realistically, that's if we're going to shoot anything, that's the way to go in the near future.
Yeah.
And then, of course, ultimately, you know, we want to make another feature.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try and take over the Star Wars franchise after that. 'Cause someone's definitely clean that mess up.
I hear they're looking, so yeah. Aside from Star Wars, anything else on your plate? What projects are you working on there in LA?
I work on production crews as a grip. So I've been working on shows such as The Voice and another show called Scorpion.
Yeah.
So I bounce around a lot through the union doing set lighting. So I don't really stick to one feature film or television show. There's mostly television here in LA to work on, but I kind of jump around.
Yeah, great. And Kendall, what about you? What's on the horizon for you?
Well, I just finished filming the shoes, so that will be coming out sometime this summer.
Great.
And I'm just auditioning for a ton of things, hoping to get something.
She's available. Tell us a little bit about the shoes. Is that a feature film as well?
Yes, it is.
Great.
So it's about these characters, and they're just trying to, well, obviously these characters.
Yeah.
Okay. It's about like all these people trying to like see how everyone like different people act and how to like fill in the shoes of other people and live life in other people's shoes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
This is sort of a theme with the unsung, with the shoes. It sounds like the projects that you gravitate towards. Well, that sounds great. I'm anxious to see that. You said that's in post-production right now, right? So that'll come out shortly. Hopefully we'll work together again.
Yes.
Well, thank you both so much for being here with me in the studio. And Damiano, thank you so much for being with us. That's all we have time for in Fade In. I thank you both for joining me. It was great talking with you. I really enjoyed it. And I hope that you will join us again on Fade In, Carnegie Screenwriters Look at the Entertainment Industry in Pittsburgh. Thanks.